Okay, so let's just dive right into it. The first thing I have on my list that you gave me is brand positioning as being the first thing that you guys try to identify. So what do you mean by brand positioning?
So a brand is a promise. It's a set of expectations, okay? Everybody has their favorite brands that they love. You might like Starbucks, but somebody else might like Pete's. Somebody else might like Seattle Best, right? But you're loyal to your brand. Why? It makes you feel a certain way. It delivers against a certain expectation. It provides you with a certain type of experience that you like. So we always start with, okay, tell me about your brand. Tell me about your brand, your values of your brand. What's your brand promise? Every brand has a promise, whether it's Apple or Starbucks or BMW or, name the brand, right? So oftentimes people think a brand is a logo or it's a graphic or it's a name. It's not. It's a set of expectations that you create for your guest, okay? So we always like to start, not everybody in the white pages is for your brand. So we need to define, first off, who is your core customer, okay? And it's not an age group anymore. It used to be, it's a demographic. No, not really. It's more of a psychographic.
Yes. I'm so happy you said that's exactly the word that was in my mind. Sorry.
It's a state of mind. I want this type of an experience. Oh, and Eric's restaurant provides that type of experience better than anybody else.
Yeah.
I like Eric, and he always makes me feel a certain way.
Yes.
So I go to Eric's restaurant. So we have to decide, who is our core customer, right? Then we say to ourselves, okay, what do these people need? What do they want? And what do they expect? So if your core customers are millennials, okay, that are really in your trade area, that you really can attract, but your food is not consistent with what millennials like to eat because you have an older clientele that's coming to you. But the problem with an older clientele, unfortunately, they're going to start coming to you less and less because eventually they're going to pass on, and then you won't have that next generation of customers.
The way I like to think of Psychographics is when I go here, what do others think about me? Like, how does this associate with my personal brand and what I say about myself? Does that align with who I am? And people, if they go to your restaurant and it doesn't align with who they think they are, they're not going to come back because they don't want to be. Is that safe to say? Is that one way to look at it?
Yes, and so everything that you do about your brand is a promise. So that means your design, your decor, your menu has to be in alignment with what your brand and your promise is. So then we have to ask the third question is, okay, now that we know who the core customer is, we've identified it's this psychographic type of person, and this is what they need, this is what they want, and this is what they expect. When we say what they need, hey, I need really high quality food that's healthier and is GMO free or has gluten free options, and this is what I expect. That it's going to be done in a timely manner when I go there to eat. If it's going to take 25 minutes for lunch, I can't come to you because I don't have 25 minutes for lunch. I have to get back to work. So at lunchtime, we always say it's about speed, value, and convenience. So if you can't deliver that at lunch, then that becomes a problem for that particular target market who needs speed, value, who's a lunch customer, okay? Then the third question is, what can you be better at than anybody else?
Yes.
What can you own? What's ownable, defendable, quantifiable?
Unique selling proposition.
What's your superpower?
Yeah.
What's your secret sauce that makes you better than everybody else, that everybody can celebrate and rally around? Because if you don't have that, that's a problem. Because then you're in that what I call the sea of same. You're like everybody else. You've got chicken wings, they've got chicken wings. You've got a quesadilla, they've got a quesadilla. You have not clearly defined your brand. You have what I call Me Too food.
Yeah, there's a great book around this topic by Seth Godin called Purple Cow. Maybe you're familiar with it. That kind of talks about just being something like unique. You need that unique selling proposition. You need to be the best at something.
Exactly.
I can't help but think about Crimsy Ramsey, who I just recently had on the show. And the reason why I'm thinking about her is, well, one, I just literally interviewed her the day ago, but I think one thing that's really important for my listeners to think about it, if there's one thing that you really want to do, like your thing is, for example, vegan Cajun food, right? And you want to create the first vegan Cajun food restaurant. Where are you going to go that are you willing to relocate to the place where that's going to work? And that's what Crimsy did. She was living, I think she was living in Texas, Dallas, Texas at the time. And she knew that if she was going to do this one thing, she had to go to where the market was going to support that. And for her, that was LA, because vegan and outside the box, unique, and it's taking off for her. So I think it's just a really good example of how important your demographic is and your brand positioning is. And are you willing to relocate to where it will have wings and where it will take off? Is that something you want to reflect on?
Well, exactly. If you're opening up a vegan restaurant, you don't want to do it in the middle of a carnivorous neighborhood.
Yeah.
Right? Where all the, where people...
Maybe not Cleveland, Ohio.
Right, because that's not your target market.
Yeah.
So that's a classic example of understanding who's your customer, and then making sure you put, if you're going after this type of an individual that thinks about beer, okay, about a certain way, you probably don't want to open up in certain areas of Utah, okay, because they don't drink. So you won't have beer sales.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. So it really is making sure that you understand your product or the product that you want to sell relative to the market that you're in.
Okay. Are there any other key positions on this first element that we're going to talk about that we haven't gotten to yet? I want to cut you short.
Yeah. Well, with branding, everything that you do, all your messaging needs to be on brand so that people really understand what you stand for. So whether it be in social media, how you communicate your message, how you communicate you have two customers. You have your internal customer, which is your employees and your team, and then you have your external customer, which is your guests that come in the door. It's really important that everybody understands what your brand promise is so that everybody can live those core values of what you're all about. Otherwise, you find yourself where really nobody understands what's our purpose.
So
why are we here?
What can we start doing to make sure people know what that is?
In terms of your brand purpose?
Yeah, to make sure that the brand is being communicated efficiently throughout the business, all parts.
Well, every restaurant should have a set of like a mission statement. What are our core values? What do we really believe in? What's important to us? And then we should live those core values every single day.
Yes.
And that should be part of our internal communication when we do lineup meetings and things like that. And reward those people on a daily basis for living those values because they're your ambassadors to your guests.
Yeah, and this is key right here. I recently spoke to Mario Del Perro. He calls them their brand rituals. And I had Hersh Schultze on the show from the Ritz-Carlton, and they do their 24 standards of service. Every day they cover one standard. And when they go through the 24, they start back at one. And it's not enough to write these things down and say, this is who we are. You have to live them every day, and the way you live them. Yep, and that you have to work it into your pre-meetings. It has to be a part of your culture, echoing every day. And I think that's where people fall short. They don't bring it to the surface constantly.
Agreed. They gloss over it, and a lot of times, these things are done from the hip without a real strategy behind it.
Put these things, make a checklist, Mark, like that these things get covered every day, because it's not enough to write it down. You got to live it. I think that's right. We can probably stop there.